Drillcut's obviously been born out of the recession time, has faced the GFC, there was COVID, and now the uncertainty.
The elephant in the room is PVC. The letter went out from Reece, was at 36%.
Yeah, across all, the trade links, everybody, Harris, everybody's receiving these letters. PVC is going through the roof.
We're very empathetic with our customers because, contracts are locked in. Everyone likes surety around the prices that they tendered at. And then something like a war breaks out on the other side of the world, but the ripple effects are very real.
Yeah. We feel for those customers that are, and those plumbers, those even electricians that are on site that just actually can't get the product to complete the work. Yeah.
If we want to continue to build, something has to change. And you go, well, what's been the resistance to change thus far? Let's unpack that. Let's look at what the other methodologies are and see if there is some areas that we can sacrifice in order to come up with a solution that keeps the project moving forward and it doesn't have to stop.
One thing that's on everybody's radar at the moment, and it's probably the one thing that comes across my desk all the time. Can you confirm or deny that jam choc biscuits are coming back to Drillcut? Welcome everybody to the first episode of Behind the Wall podcast, brought to you for the trade, by the trade. And our first ever episode here, we've got the CEO of just not one company, but three companies, Mr. Tim Phillips. Welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks, Paul. It's a bit awkward. For many, I guess, but glad to be on, and thanks for the introduction.
No, awesome, Tim.
What's going on?
There is a huge amount of going on within the trade area at this very time. A lot of things have changed over the past few weeks, let alone months. So it's continually changing, but we touched on it in the intro. So Tim, you're the CEO of three companies, Drillcut, DC Nexus, as well as BSP. A lot of time on your hands, obviously.
Things are busy. But I think you've touched an important part, Paul, around things are ever changing. Like you wake up every morning and there's something new, whether it's on the Financial Review or whether it's in the Australian or whether it's something in LinkedIn, because the world is changing not by the day but by the hour. And I think for me anyway, and I think for our customers and those that are listening, there's never been more of a time where the advice of control what you can control and don't try and control what you can't control has been relevant.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that you look at the history of Drillcut, which my father started in 88, as you know. And really, he started, you might say, well, he likes to say, when he started, there was one tower crane in Melbourne back in the early 90s. I think we're currently sitting at around 190 in Melbourne and around 400 in Sydney. But I guess businesses that were born in a recession somewhat become more resilient to recession or to uncertainty. And what we're seeing today is just uncertainty. And it's not like businesses haven't been through uncertainty before.
Definitely.
And I think it's actually an opportunity for businesses to really find their true foundation and build from it.
Yeah. You touched on it there. Drillcut's obviously been born out of the recession time, has faced the GFC, there was COVID, and now the uncertainty. How is Drillcut placed as we stand here today?
Yeah, I think Drillcut, because of that, is in a great position. And you know this, and appreciate what you're doing with your team, not just to grow sales, but to partner and support our customers through these times. Yeah. And once again, to quote something my father used to say, is put yourself in the customer's shoes, which I think is one of our core values of empathy. Yeah. And really, that's never been truer and more relevant, because for us to succeed, our customers have to succeed. Yeah. And really, if you think about the whole job flow principle and the program that we created out of the back of COVID, these are tools that can help empower our customers to actually get through these tough times. And I look at it, we mentioned the 90s recession. I was only very young. I still remember the kitchen table and the discussions around the recession in the 90s. But you think of 08, and I was here, absolutely. And the GFC came, and I always talk about the lag in construction because construction has a pipeline, and it's very rare for the pipeline just to shut off.
Yeah.
it slows. So, and you know this, you've been in construction. Construction slows down gradually. And the speed of the slowdown is indicative of how critical the crisis is. And you look at the '08 GFC, and there is a building that dictates that today. And if you look at the Melbourne Convention Centre and South Wharf DFO, there's a hotel that looks very stubby. I don't know what it is. Do you know which hotel it is?
No, I know the building you're referring to.
Yeah, so that building was meant to be 30, 40 stories high like all the others around it.
Right.
And it's only squatting at around 8 or 10 because of the developer stopping construction due to a financial crisis.
Yeah.
So it's rare that we actually see buildings like that impacted. But at the same time, what we did see in the GFC was a shift post-GFC in construction.
Yes.
We saw the type of buildings being built change, the way buildings were being built change, and that's reflective of what we went through.
Yeah.
And what I mean to that is that pre-GFC, there was a lot of big builds happening, a lot of retail shopping centres, a lot of hospitals, a lot of office towers, some really big, assets that are still around today, even residential. So Eureka Tower was pre-GFC in Melbourne. And then you look at the MCG rebuild, a lot of hospitals, Royal Children's Hospital, the Austin Hospital, many, many hospitals. And then the GFC hit, so not only developers pull back, but government pulls back on spending.
Yeah, definitely.
And what we saw, the shift in construction, is we went from luxurious type builds to cost-effective builds. So central equity boomed, residentials went to split systems on balconies, and that's where our industry kind of pivoted somewhat from being large mechanical service HVAC type projects to simple split systems on the wall, cost-effective solutions.
Yeah. You touched on it through that period, but what Drillcut was back in, say 20 odd years ago to what it is today, can you talk me through what has changed and what's the biggest shifts that you've seen within the company? Yeah.
We're obviously a bit bigger than we were and more people, but I'd like to think what has stayed the same and what hasn't shifted is our values.
Yeah.
And I think really if you can't hold the values, you can't hold your business.
Yeah.
But I think what we have seen shift is really the scaling of those values to be able to somewhat influence the industry by supporting our customers.
Yeah.
So we've seen ourselves by supporting customers with simple solutions. Like we used to have a particular anchor that my father got from Germany. It was a great solution. It was called an MSL anchor. Typical German, just an acronym. And it was a great problem solver for Besser block hollow walls. And how many plumbers were delighted to have this tool in their box for putting hose reels onto hollow block Besser walls. It was a solution. Mm-hmm. And you'd say it was very simple. It was one anchor, multiple applications, multiple trades. But I'd like to think now that value of solution is there, but the scalability of the solution has broadened 10x. So now we're not talking about a solution for fixing a hose reel to a wall. We're talking about how do we shift the industry for the betterment of future generations to options that are more cost effective, more environmentally effective, and more productive.
Yeah. With the work that Drillcut is doing within the industry, obviously you, as the CEO, but you've still got a close ear to everybody that's out on site. It's been a quiet time in the news, obviously, in the past few weeks. There's a bit going on. What are you hearing from our customers here at Drillcut? That what's their concerns and how is Drillcut addressing those concerns?
Yeah, it's a good question because we know, the elephant in the room is PVC.
100%.
And we're very empathetic with our customers because, contracts are locked in. Everyone likes surety around the prices that they tendered at. And then something like a war breaks out on the other side of the world, but the ripple effects are very real.
Yeah.
And as we know, anything petroleum, anything related to petroleum has been impacted, and PVC is significant. I think, was it the letter went out from Reece, was it 36%?
Yeah, across all, the trade links, everybody, Harris,
Yes.
everybody's receiving these letters.
Yeah.
PVC is going through the roof, and
Yeah.
I remember when I first started selling PVC, it was $16 a length. You know,
Wow. For 6 metres.
Yeah. So, obviously that industry's changed. Overnight. You know, it's and even rationing PVC has
Yes.
come into it as well.
Yes.
So, we feel for those customers that are, and those plumbers, those even electricians that are on site that just actually can't get the product to complete the work.
I think that that last point you touched on is key, because the price is one thing, but not being able to get it. There is no stop button to construction.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, at the end of the day, our final client, whether you be a subcontractor, whether you be a supplier to the site or the builder, or a consultant or engineer working on the project, we all have one customer, and that's the developer. And the developer, really what the developer wants is to be able to buy a parcel of land and get return on that investment in the quickest time frame possible.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen some pretty cool developments in construction methodology over the last, 10 to 15 to 20 years, where we were taking, you could take some of those older projects back to the 80s, like Rialto Tower, and the multiple years of construction time, versus now they're talking around turning around a level per week. And, this is technology, and I think Australia stands well in the global platform on our technology around building methodology.
Yeah.
And you look at the speed and the scale that we can build at today, and as I said, this is all to get our customer return on their investment the quickest way possible. And the developer has made the investment on the site. They've got a plan. They want a return. That's business. And they can't stop. So we need to make sure that our customer doesn't have to stop.
Yeah.
And you mentioned PVC pipe, and we've seen this before. When an industry gets put into a corner and something's not there, we don't just curl up. We look around and we embrace other opportunities. Look at what's happening elsewhere in the world, and generally we have to make sacrifices. So if we want to continue to build, something has to change. And you go, well, what's been the resistance to change thus far? Let's unpack that. Let's look at what the other methodologies are and see if there is some areas that we can sacrifice in order to come up with a solution that keeps the project moving forward and it doesn't have to stop.
Yeah. So you mentioned, being able to provide product that doesn't allow the project to stop. So a couple of those products that Drillcut's got on offer.
Yeah, well, I think... Cytec is a great example, which is an acoustic piping system as an alternative to PVC. Yeah. And you go, well, that's still polyethylene. It still has a poly component, yes. But I think it's around global supply chain. Yes. And I think this is where we, as at Drillcut, are in a bit of a unique position, that we have got connections globally in 40 years of supply chain experience to go, well, if polymer or resin's restricted due to a crisis outside of our control, what can we control? Let's explore the world and see what other opportunities there are, and which is what we've done. Yeah. And you can see, our manufacturers in Poland, some of our manufacturers in Italy, and even as recent as manufacturing in Southeast Asia, and working out who has got access, and understanding why and how long their supply chain is secure for. And this is the research that we've done, and we're putting Cytec as an option forward to the market that we believe is a great alternative. Yeah. And I'm excited because I've always had a passion to see PVC that is lagged to give it the acoustic performance on a drainage situation, superseded with a more relevant, more up-to-date methodology, be it an acoustic piping system, which Europe has been doing for tens of years, by the way.
100%.
And I understand that the reluctance has been a feeling around acoustic performance, and the key word's feeling, because we like to stick to facts and data. And I think the facts and data show us that the performance is fine, hence it's been adopted in Europe for many years. So this is where we don't work against, we work with the acoustic consultants, and the conversation changes because we go, well, our customer, the ultimate customer, the developer, doesn't want to push stop. He can't. We have an alternative solution. We understand that your concerns are around acoustic performance. we are now in a position where we need to come to a compromise here, and sacrifices need to be made. And just on that, I can tell you right now that the acoustic performance issue is on high-frequency pitches. And you speak to the Europeans, and we speak to our professor, acoustic engineer in Sydney, who's done a lot of work with us. And in layman's terms, it's the dogs that hear the high-frequency noise, not us as humans and residents in a dwelling or a hotel. So therefore, as long as the dog doesn't mind hearing a bit more noise, we'll be okay.
If it's got my dog, he'd be running around all the house and and destroying my furniture again. So, which will probably make my wife happy because she's trying to get a new couch out of me anyway.
There you
go. She probably wants me to install a little bit of that. But you touched on before with the world, being able to access the world in your supply chain. And obviously you've spoken to me in the past regarding a story where you've been able to get planes available to send stock over to Australia because you saw the customer needed a particular product. Can you tell us a little bit more about that particular story?
Yeah, well, I think it's just all stops are out.
Yeah.
So once again, if there's no stop button, what buttons do we need to push and what levers do we need to pull in order to fulfill what's needed to keep the project running?
Yeah.
And I think what you're referring to is some of the situations with COVID where there were some limited supply chains.
Yeah.
And we were able to enable some aircraft that once was used for passengers, take the seats out and use it for product. And that's something that we could do today as well, if necessary. There's a lot of aircraft. It's pretty quiet over there in the UAE at the moment.
Yeah.
So if we need to fly product instead of ship product, let's do it.
I recently did a trip to Sydney, and I was with one of the guys from procurement. And usually, the Melbourne airport 6:30 in the morning is bustling, and it was chalk and cheese to what I'm used to. I've been flying all around Australia for a few years now, and I've had that flight many a times. I was able to drive up into the car park, get my nice little spot up the front, go into the terminal, and there was vacant seats on a flight to Sydney. People aren't travelling as much, to your point. So aircrafts, and we've seen it recently in the news that even Qantas and Virgin have now actually decreased their flight registers at the moment. So, there is those opportunities. And what other companies around Australia that is looking forward to that, looking ahead, I should say, to be able to offer that service to their customers? There's not a lot of companies out there that could pivot that quickly, but you've got as a CEO, you've got the finger on the pulse, and you're going, no, we need to do this, and at no extra charge to the customer, because you know that obviously there's deadlines to be met, and the customer's requirements are critical to not just our success but their success as well. So without our customer being successful, we cannot be successful as well, right? And so,
and our suppliers as well. Like our
100%,
suppliers are as much as equally, if not more important than our customers, because without them, we're not able to service our customers.
Yeah,
and I think it's just even working with Mark, the MD for Snap Fire Collars, a crucial partner of ours, and working with him to ensure that his supply chain's secured. And he's great. He's a great operator as well. He's been doing some very, very creative solutions around supply chain and secured up our fire coals for our customers.
Even on my way through to conduct this podcast, I actually walked through the PEX coil area. We've got a lot of PEX on the shelf here. So Voltanium.
Just ask the CFO.
So obviously there was a decision made to make sure that the PEX was also covered.
Correct.
Because we've heard around the traps, obviously PEX may be affected, and that we've had customers reach out to yourself even regarding PEX. So to be able to secure your product and then be able to lock in your pricing, so there isn't that fluctuation across jobs.
And I
that's
think
critical, right?
Absolutely critical, because let's go back. We want to make sure our customers are supported, because if they don't succeed, we don't succeed.
Yeah.
And not only, we've talked a lot around about supply chain security, but we also want to talk around cost security. And I think, I've seen a lot of price rise letters come across my desk, like there's multiple a day. And I think understand that there is times where you do need to do that if it's a fast-moving product and you don't have sufficient stockpiles. But one thing that I am grateful for with our supply chain team is that we have got sufficient stockpiles, and let's hope that can see us through to make sure we don't have to pass any significant prices, particularly on the PEX product, onto our customers. At the moment, no need to move.
Yeah, and that's across, obviously, acoustic piping as well,
yes,
for drainage. So,
correct.
Yeah, where customers are being passed on that 30% or even more in their PVC, they've got the confidence where they can actually utilise particular products that aren't moving at the moment.
That's
and
right.
they can bed down their supply for that project.
Exactly. And you look at a PVC pipe, and to get the acoustic rating, it has to be wrapped in an acoustic lag. And the acoustic lag, what's the most expensive component of it? The PVC weight.
Yeah.
So it has a polyvinyl heavy, like a 5 kilogram per square metre product, and obviously severely impacted by the global supply chain crisis.
Yeah. When I first started at Drillcut, we had one engineer. You made the decision very quickly, and no influence by me. I don't want to put my name to this, but you made the decision very quickly to expand that team. Talk me through.
We put on another one yesterday. Number 6.
Do I need to talk to the CFO again? But so 6, is it?
6. We're up to 6 engineers.
Wow.
Now, yeah.
Reason behind that?
Because I think in a time, once again, it's adapting to what the market needs. And wherever we see a gap, we're there to fill it.
Yeah.
And we've spoken a lot about the war and timing crisis and what that's done to the industry. But I think we also need to look at what we're building today.
Yeah.
And what we're not building today.
Yeah.
And I spoke about the shift in build of construction type in post-08 GFC, which really didn't flow through till 12 months later, where we went to a cheaper building methodology, still residential. And that's probably another podcast, actually. One day we'll talk about residential and house.
It was hard enough to get you for one podcast,
I
and
think
now you're throwing yourself into second.
That's another subject. We could bring some pretty
Producer
cool guys.
Dave has got that down. He's written it down.
But getting back to today, and it's always good to look at the tower crane index, but it's more important to look at where the tower cranes are. And most of the tower cranes today, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, are on data centres. And data centres, I think, is everyone's a bit more aware what a data centre is now.
100%, yeah. Well, they're popping up everywhere,
They're popping up everywhere. And we know that, when you take a photograph and your Google's full, it's actually, your phone's full, it goes to Google and goes inside a factory, and that's called a data centre. And then AI needs somewhere for this compute to happen. It's in a data centre. And there's not enough of them. So we're seeing, once again, the data centre developers have no off button.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they have about 5 levers that are just go forward and go forward fast. And the speed that these centres are being constructed and the complexity of them is incredible.
Yeah.
And the gap there is engineering. And we need bespoke solutions. And once again, I think there's one thing I want to point out here, that in a data centre, our ultimate client isn't actually the developer so much, it's the hyperscaler.
Yeah, right.
Or it's the if you like, it's the big tech. So the big tech is driving speed. They want to turn computers on, and they want to turn them on fast.
Yeah.
The developer goes, I'll house your computers, and I'll build something as quickly as I can so you can. They engage a general contractor or builder to build that. They engage subcontractors to fill that out. But at the end of the day, they just want to turn computers on and turn them on fast. Now, every hyperscaler has a unique template or design suite of what goes inside the data center, so they have to pivot. And faster than I've seen anywhere before, because these pivots aren't small, they're large pivots from client to client. Yeah. And so they're building as they're designing.
Yeah.
What does that mean? There's gaps. And what are those gaps? Engineering. And that's what I'm really proud of Essie and what he's doing with his engineering team, have just been able to fill those gaps so that the critical path is not slowed or aborted at any point, but we can fill those gaps and supply solutions to keep these projects on their critical path of delivering commissioning on the date that promised to the hyperscaler.
Yeah. You touched on Essie, who's the head engineer at Drillcut. structural or
Structural engineer.
structural engineer.
Very clever structural engineer.
Yeah, and a team of structural engineers as
Correct.
well behind him.
Mm.
So obviously that advancement can be supported by Drillcut.
Yes, and it's great to have those guys. And I'd like to say, and this is almost a little bit cliche, but I'd like to say our business is becoming engineering-led rather than sales-led. And you mightn't like that, Paul, because you're a salesman. But I think you understand.
That's why I'm now the podcast host, apparently.
But you do understand sales enough
Yes.
to know that we're not selling,
Yes.
we're providing solutions.
100%.
And today's
Yep.
solution is engineering.
Yep.
And that's what Essie's doing,
Yep.
and a tremendous job.
Yeah. One thing that's on everybody's radar at the moment, and it's probably the one thing that comes across my desk all the time. Can you confirm or deny that jam choc biscuits are coming back to Drillcut?
It's a very
You're the
good
CEO.
question.
This is very important for everybody out there to understand.
Well, it's a great question. I'm going to have to take it on notice, Paul, because I thought we'd secured that supply chain. We've talked about supply chain and the critical nature of it, but if we haven't got them, we better have a chat to
As someone
Max.
that doesn't like jam, can I throw another suggestion out? It was just choc chip with a, and this is probably why I'm tipping the scales, but choc chip with a chocolate base would be my preference. But
Okay, nice.
it's,
Well, why don't we put it out to the audience and actually
100%.
get some ideas?
Yeah.
And-
Feel free. Drop a comment in the podcast, please.
Yes.
I'd love to know what people out there actually want. I mean,
Yeah.
that'd be
cookies
awesome.
are
What is your
certainly-
favourite drill cut cookie?
I just like the plain shortbread.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. Maybe it's less calories. I'm not sure. I need
Yeah.
that. But I do
We
like
all
shortbread.
need that.
I do like shortbread. And, big shout out to our shortbread manufacturer. They've changed their name recently, but they used to be called Max Shortbreads.
Yeah.
And it's a friend of mine in Kerrang
Okay.
that started making those. And,
Yeah.
once again, that was another pivot where I was just speaking to him one day and thinking, what would be a way that we could reward our customers with every order,
Yeah.
just to say thank you. And
Yeah.
a lot of people, there was some doing lollies, jelly beans, snakes, other things. I thought maybe, they're tradies, they have smoko. Sometimes it's a pie and a Coke, but other times, particularly in the winter, it can be a cup of tea or coffee.
Or an energy drink.
Or an energy drink, sorry, Paul. Has to be Monster.
Please. White Monster.
And so that's where the idea of the cookie came, and talking
Yeah.
to Daniel about that and said, hey, what do you think if we were to produce some cookies? And he goes, well, we could even put them in your box. So they've come a long way, and I think they're actually a currency now, whether it be the guy on the gate or whether it be the elevator operator.
I've heard stories where the lollipop operator out the front won't let a truck go through unless there's a box of cookies coming their way. But
I think the trucks have all got them in the cabs now, don't they?
So Tim, you've touched on a lot of topics today, but it's been great to have you on board for the first podcast. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I think being able to give a different perspective on what Drillcut can offer.
Sure.
The trade is obviously changing, and I think Drillcut is at the forefront of that innovation, as well as being able to provide a level of service or a different style of service than what the status quo has been in the past. And I think tradies out there, whether you're plumber, electrician, fire or HVAC, is looking for that alternative now, especially the things are changing. So, it's been great to have you on. Thank you very much for coming in on the first podcast.
Thanks, Paul.
So every episode we will be bringing in industry experts like Tim, as well as plumbers, electricians across the commercial sector to have a chat and to see what's actually happening out there in the real world.
Fantastic.
So if you do like this sort of content, please like and subscribe. Please follow us on all of our socials. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here, Tim.
Great, Paul.
And look forward to episode 2.
I will have one closing remark. And
Go
you said
for
it at the start. You said your eyes and ears in the industry.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just reiterate that the eyes and ears aren't actually mine or yours. They're our customers.
100%. Yeah.
And if you look at any product advancement that we've made, any industry shift we've made, it's been from a customer.
Customer-led.
And that could be an apprentice or it could be a business owner, or anywhere in between.
Yeah.
So if anyone's got an idea that
Yeah.
you think could improve productivity in our industry,
Yeah.
it's not a dumb idea. Reach out, tell us.
Yeah.
We'll listen, and we'll bring your idea into reality.
That'd be awesome. Like,
Good.
all right.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you on episode 2.